Today we're going to be talking about the grid collapse. What just happened again for the second time in less than a month in Spain. Not only blackouts and grid collapse, communication was gone. We're going to talk about how we are reliant on our phones and the grid and mapping. The numbers are startling, so how can we prepare for that? Also, we're going to discuss tech. Ex-Google billionaire, along with Sam Altman, which is one of the makers of AI, along with Zuckerberg. Some of the biggest, richest billionaires in the world are saying they're preparing for AI takeover. They're building bunkers. They're prepping. They're becoming preppers. Why? Now, we can't build multi-billion dollar bunkers, but what we can do is learn and gain wisdom from the same things that we are seeing, that they are seeing with AI. The dangers are all around us. And then lastly, we're going to talk again about prepping with money. Things that we should be doing right now to be sustainable. Klarna just came out with, which is buy now, pay later, astounding amount of people that need their help. Meaning they can't even go to fast food, they can't shop on Amazon, they can't go to Walmart, they can't do the normal everyday things without doing a buy now, pay later option, which is around 20 to 30%. On top of that, our government's treasury bonds keep going up, which means our debt goes up. On top of that, even the people like Cash and Bongino kind of hurt my feelings yesterday because they've almost sank as low as some of the establishment. I like these guys, but what is happening? All these things have one item in common. That means you and your independence and freedom and sustainability comes down to prepping and taking care of your family. Let's talk about 5 things today that we should be doing to make sure we are ready for these items. Grid issues, AI, and how it's taking our jobs, and the fact that people have no money because we're buy now, pay later. We have wants, not needs. Let's dive into these stores today. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. It means the world to us and helps us spread our message across this platform. Again, we appreciate you being here. We're humbled, again, by your support. If you didn't see yesterday's video, go check it out. It was held down pretty good. The reason we want to share these kind of things with you because we want to gain wisdom and we want to see people thrive and do better. The reason we can have gardens and all these things that we do is because we see the importance of sustainability. Now let's dive into these stories. Now first let's talk about our grid. I want to mention an email I received, and this is a big deal because when I got this email I said, you know, you hear these kind of stories and you don't know if anything's ever true, but the more you start diving into it, you're like, wow, that makes perfect sense. You know, we're not the best friends with China. We've been talking about that. Now we've got a 90-day hold. Why don't you listen to the story I just received? I received an email today from a gentleman that said we could possibly have Trojan horses in our grid. Chinese allegedly have put kill switches in several solar farms and several grid attachments that they sell to America. Now remember, the reason this is a big deal is because all our grid components, including transformers for traditional energy, down to solar panels, down to wind energy, all this stuff, our batteries, everything that we get right now, because we're not producing most of it, is all coming from China. Now we're producing raw product like our fossil fuels, our oils. We're producing natural gas, but to get those and change those into energy to run our grid is all Chinese components. Well, there's a new study out that shows that there could be kill switches and there could be ways that China is tapping into our grid. Is there a risk there? Now, we think, no, we would not allow that to happen. Keep on diving in. It says, in late April, a sudden massive blackout plunged Spain and Portugal into darkness after 2 gigawatts of power just dropped off their grid. It put a power surge on the other part, shut it down. Power returned within hours, but the implications were staggering. Europe's energy systems are now so interconnected and centralized that one failsafe in one area of their grid shuts it all down. Guess what? America's doing the same thing where our grid is connected. We have different avenues and areas, but there is regional connectivity to where if Texas power grid goes out, it shuts down not only all Texas, but several of that whole regions of the United States. Same with California, same with the Southeast, same with the Midwest, same with the Northeast, same with, of course, the Northwest. this is happening already because of our interconnectivity and how each grid is needing each other to formulate, because we're putting too much data centers on it. We're putting too much requirements on our grid. One expert warns that Beijing, with the ability to flip a switch and trigger blackouts across the US, because we have given them access to our grids and allowed them to pretty much have every chance to take advantage of our vulnerabilities because we rely on them to provide it. Do you know our transformers, some of these big transformers that you see in these big power stations, did you know we are backlogged? We do not have one of those extra to put our power upon. All those supplies come from China, and we would have to import those in. Well, being that we're dealing with an adversarial relationship with them now, and we're not the best of friends, don't you think that makes us vulnerable? Let's go back to Spain and Portugal. What happened just yesterday and today? All major mobile networks down across Spain. 4 weeks ago, national blackouts. Now today, they have no communication whatsoever. Spain's entire mobile network crashes. Spain got hit with a full-scale telecommunications blackout. From Orange to Vodafone to O2 to Digimail to Signal to Movistar to all internet, all signals, all emergency lines have been in the black. This is the second national meltdown in just 4 weeks of power outages and problems. Now, we say, well, Colby, that's not what we're dealing with. Now let's come back to America. 100 million people cannot move around the United States without having maps. They can't get home from their work, it says. That's almost 1/3 of Americans that need their maps to get home from their place of work, to get to a store from their home. There's another story that says 55% of Americans live in cities, another 20% live in suburbs, and another 5% lives inside very heavy congested areas. So what is that, 55, 25, what is that? That's 80, 85. So 85% of individuals live in congested city, suburban, metropolitan areas. It says if we saw the same situation of grid collapse and the same situation of communication collapse and the fact that 100 million people are needing cell phones just to make it home safe, they said that we would see utter panic in America. And because of the situation with the Chinese having access to our grid, how truly safe is our grid? Now let's go to the second story, because we're going to go through a list of things that I purchased this week because of these stories. Breaking: OpenAI co-founder Sutzkever wanted to build a doomsday bunker to protect company and scientists from AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. AI is becoming more developed to where it can generate itself. Listen to this. This also comes on the heels that Silicon Valley doomsday preppers such as Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Sam Altman all have decided to start looking at ways to prepare for AI takeover. Now, if the people that are generating AI, now Peter Thiel, the leader of Palantir and one of the biggest investors, of course in AI, Zuckerberg with OpenAI, with Meta, Altman, Sutzkever, both with OpenAI, Elon with Grok and with another supplier of OpenAI. We're seeing even the ultra billionaires finding ways to prepare because they see that they may not can stop this. Listen to what this ex-Google exec also said, another ultra rich billionaire. Ex-Google boss: AI will replace most programmers in a year. Superintelligence could arrive in less than 6 years in America. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt said, "We believe that in the next year, the vast majority of programming and computer software in the work of Americans will be taken over by AI. Within 3 to 5 years, we'll see AGI, the systems that are smarter and more advanced than any human mind. After 6 years, AGI, there will be no way Americans can prepare fast enough." Now listen to this. This is the same people that made AI. Is telling you now that they're preparing because they may not can stop the formulation of this. There's a doctor that came out and said, "I could not even keep up with AI that I was using to help with radiology. It was finding diagnoses quicker than I was finding diagnoses." He even made a joke. He said, "I may need to get a job at McDonald's." But listen to this. Mario Nafal shared the story. Just get a job at McDonald's, everybody always says. Too bad. Robots are beating you to it. It doesn't clock out. It doesn't complain, and you don't have to pay it. It is now inside making French fries and flipping burgers in some McDonald's across the world. They're using even AI technology and robotics to flip burgers and fries. Now last, Lord, before we talk about the list of things that we should be buying, Klarna just came out and said that there's 100 million people that are using Buy Now, Pay Later. Buy Now, Pay Later means I can't afford, even down to DoorDash, I can't afford even down to a McDonald's or Walmart ticket. I can't even afford to buy anything at all without using a Buy Now, Pay Later app. Klarna has become a multi-billion-dollar company. What is Buy Now, Pay Later? It means you are literally borrowing money to pay for the smallest of small things that banks and credit cards sometimes don't even deal with when you have subpar lending benefits. That means you're literally paying sometimes 10, 15, 20, 30% for things such as small buy items such as $5, $10, $15. So if you're buying, say for instance, a fast food meal for $8. If you Buy Now, Pay Later and you don't pay that off within 20 to 30 days, it says it could cost you another 5 to 15% depending, of course, on your credit and your limits and what you've already spent. So say you're using Klarna Buy Now, Pay Later 3 or 4 times a week. That means you have spent hundreds of dollars on burgers that should have cost you 20 bucks, now cost you 150 to 200 bucks. So now we see AI is taking over jobs. We see the grid issues and the vulnerabilities of people who are reliant on technology, which is good, but we are reliant upon it. And then thirdly, we're seeing the fact of problems with people and money. So with all that being said, 5 things that I literally purchased this week, or I literally got this week, things that I personally did. And the reason I want to tell you that is because this is coming from someone who is literally, I mean, prepping is just life for me. Look at the gardens, look at all this. And again, we raise literally all our food other than things that we just want to buy. We have been prepping for years and we're still wanting to make sure we're ready. So number 1, what happened this week? I bought more communication devices. Now I have a burner phone, I have a satellite phone, I have the telecommunication pagers, but I bought more antenna space for my CBs and my ham radios. Now, here's what I would tell you. Number 1 is communication. Communication may look different than what it does for me. So number 1 for me is I bought more antenna space so I can get to a frequency, hopefully, to be able to communicate. I also built an emergency plan so not only does my kids know, and remember my son is dating someone and they've been together for a long time, so she is a part of our family too. So it's one of those things that I've even got a situation where everyone knows the plan. Everyone on our family situation knows the situation where if all of a sudden, like what happened in Portugal and Spain, and there's no phones, there's no ableness to get there, I told them how to get and where to go. Now I live in rural Mississippi. It's pretty easy to get back home from any part in town that we're in. But I've also told my son, be aware, understand when you drive somewhere, you may not have your phone to map back. 100 million people are needing the grid to tell them how to get home from work. That's almost 33% of Americans are needing the grid to tell them how to make it to work and back into a restaurant because they cannot do it by understanding directions the old-fashioned way. So number 1 may be communication. For me, it may be maps. We keep literally a road atlas and a map atlas in our cars. We keep those communication devices, those pagers, in our cars. We keep EMP shields in our cars because if a grid shuts down, how safe is our car if our car is developed with communications? Do you realize your car is ran with computers? If a grid collapse happens, how bad can a grid collapse be? And all of a sudden it shuts you down with your cars. So number 1 for me was communication. It looked like bigger antennas. For you, it may be something totally different. Ways of communication to get your family back home. It may be something as simple as drawing out a plan. It may be simple as understanding rights and lefts when you get to directions and road maps. Number 2, I bought more propane this week, more gas, and more solar panels. All those things are reliant when it comes to energy use. If our grid fails like we saw with Spain, I want to be able to run the necessities that I have. We have certain parts of our home that has our freezers. We have certain parts of our homes that deal with safety and security and monitoring and cameras. We have certain parts of our home that our family would be in for safety and security. So I wanted to make sure that I had extra propane, extra gas, and extra solar panels. So my goal is always to make sure that stuff is ready. I actually had to buy a battery. I went back and looked at some of my batteries in my solar setup, and guess what? One battery was swelled up. I realized, well, the battery's no good. Took it out of rotation, put another one in. So that was an investment I didn't want to make this week, but I knew it had to be at an optimal condition. Because if something like what happened in Spain and Portugal, and what they're warning with Trojan horses in our grid, why would I not want to be prepared? So number 2 was energy benefits, energy alternatives, making sure we had enough stocked up. Number 3 was cash on hand. Cash on hand is one of the biggest, the absolute biggest necessities. When people do not even have cash because they're using buy now, pay later apps, when people are using the Cash App, or using Zelle, or using Stripe, or using some other crypto.com, some other, and I'm not saying again, those are all terrible, I'm not saying that, PayPal, whatever you're using, don't let that be your full-fledged way of income. First of all, you know, most of those are not banks, they're called Fintechs. What Fintechs are financial institutions that are on no bricks and mortar, but online only. Grid collapse, how safe is your money? Did you know none of those are FDIC insured? Did you know also, if the grid collapses and all your money's on those exchanges, there's no way that you can literally get your money off those exchanges until a grid came back up. So how safe are you if all of a sudden you had to run to the ATM when everybody else was running to the ATM? Do you think banks would keep those ATMs running, especially if we saw a significant problem with our grid? Heck no. So have some cash on hand, have some things barterable on hand. That means other forms of tangible goods, assets, values, things that could be utilized to switch and change with your neighbors. It's a big deal. Number 4, another thing that I looked after this week and I made sure that we were on top of the game is medicine. The Ivor you-know-what word is becoming more and more hard to get. Now, you see some states are going to OTC, over-the-counter, when it comes to things like ivermectin. But here's what you got to pay attention to. Your medicine is key in a situation where we have grid issues, AI issues, and the fact that money is getting tight. Did you know that if you walk in, you think about it, I want you to look. I want you to go Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Super D, Kroger, Publix, whatever supermarket, grocery store, or area you go in, and the pharmacy area is always slam-packed. Now, most people are reliant on some form of pharma. It's not a good thing, but it's truth. If that's the case, if that is the case, then why in the world would you not want to have some emergency medicine at home? Prime example, personal story. I have 2 children right now. That's just kind of the weather. One's nauseated, the other one's got a stomach ache and has gagged, and so we know that sickness. They've probably picked up something from all the little graduations and things we've had to do this week. You know what? I don't have to go to the doctor. I don't have to take them somewhere. My wife's a nurse, and she said, well, this is exactly what they probably have. So she was able to give them things that we had in our emergency preparedness medicine. Now, that's just because we don't want the inconvenience of going to the doctor. What if all of a sudden a grid collapsed? What if all of a sudden you had to run to Walmart when everybody else is running to Walmart? What if all of a sudden we saw that there are problems with AI? We saw that there's problems with our grid. We saw there was problem political. I mean, look at Dan Bongino and Cash Patel. People that we liked is now almost believing the fact that the files and the gentleman who we're wanting files from is all of a sudden, no, yeah, he actually did harm himself, and it's, no harm, no foul. There's nothing to the attempts on the president's life. All that's washed behind. These guys are almost talking like they're part of the establishment now. So some of the hopes that we had, even for this administration, did you realize that we're adding to the deficit, the big, beautiful bill that they keep talking about, that Trump talks about, even though I'm a big Trump supporter? It's adding to our deficit. So we've not stopped spending. So if we see AI taking jobs, we see the grid having risk, we see the fact that our money's not going as far as it used to, we see the fact that we still are in major economic problems in America, why would we not want to have some emergency preparedness medicine at our home? There's links below to all that stuff, but to be honest with you, I don't care who you buy from. Just get some. And the I word may be one of the most important. And number 5, this is going to be funny to you, but it's your sanity. Now, I didn't buy sanity this week. I didn't invest in sanity this week. But here's what I did do. I'm grounded. in my faith. I'm grounded in my spiritual prepping. I'm grounded in my physical prepping. I'm grounded mentally. And you know what? I try not to let things bother me. There were several YouTubers that literally made hate videos of people like me and Doug and Stacy this week. I mean, like, trying to destroy our name. It didn't affect me because I know who I am. I know what we're doing. We're not grifters. We're growing tons of food. I mean, I harvested literally 100 pounds of onions over the last 2 days. We harvested another 300 pounds of potatoes. We have potatoes from last year still. 10 years worth of food. So when I think about it, physically, I'm fine when it comes to prepping. I've prepared in even the ways that most people don't prepare. You know the $1 billion bunkers? Well, I'm not a billionaire and I don't have a $1 billion bunker, but we have preparations if we had to bug out. We have preparations if we have to bug in. So number 5, here's what I would tell you. It's preparing yourself emotionally. So that means understanding we don't live in a safe, awesome world all the time. It's not always cupcakes and rainbows. We need to see the reality for what it is. We have congressmen on one side that are fighting the other ones. We have attempts on one side that are fighting the other one. We have ex-FBI agents threatening presidents. We have polarization on both sides of the aisle. We have more infighting with race relations now than we've ever had. You think it's better? So we have to emotionally prepare for that. Spiritually preparing, physically preparing. We have to buy the things like we're talking about in this video. Food, water, yes. Medicine, yes. Alternative energy, yes. We have to have those things. Physically, we have to have those things. And defensively, we have to physically have something in place to protect those goods also. Mentally. I mean, you cannot say that everything is going great right now in America. It seems like the market's turned around. It seems like we're making great headways with tariffs, but we're still in debt up to our eyeballs. We still have 100 million people investing in Klarna. We have several Americans that can't even afford their normal everyday bills. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And then the last part of this is we have to spiritually prepare. We have to be grounded in our faith. We have to see the world for what it is. It's a fallen world made up of imperfect people. I can only tell you so much. The rest you have to do on your own. And parts of that is we physically, mentally, and emotionally prepare. But parts of that is spiritually prepare. And that means we can't do it on our own, so we look for a higher calling. We're Christians. So every day we tell you something. The whole point of telling you that is so it turns you back to faith in something so much better than what we can provide. Do I have protection on my windows? Do I grow food? All that's great. But without spiritual preparing, without groundedness in my faith, it's all for naught because I'd lose my mind. When billionaires are building bunkers, when billionaires are telling you that they are worried about AI, when doctors are saying they're losing jobs to AI, when robotics are coming and they're taking the jobs of flipping burgers and fries and checking you out at Walmart, when all of a sudden Klarna is telling you that people can't even afford their burgers and their Big Macs, but they're not stopping spending, they're just spending more. When our government is blowing money like crazy, and when our grid is vulnerable, things happen. Guys, my goal is not to make you scared. You know, again, everybody calls me a fearmonger. It has nothing to do with fear. It has to do with the reality of the situations we live in our world. When we put our head in the sand, you can say everything's perfect. And you can live in your home and have a white picket fence and think that everything will be okay. And I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong and you're right and everything's going to be okay. But if it's not, why not be prepared and have the insurance there? If I believed that everything was going to be okay, I wouldn't buy health insurance, fire insurance, life insurance, or automobile insurance because everything's going to be okay. No, I buy those insurances because I want to prepare. Well, the reason I prep and the reason I tell you to buy these things, the reason I did these 5 things this week is because I wanted to prepare and have the insurance just in case. Will I still use the gas, the propane? Will I still use the telecommunications? Will I still use, the things that we talked about? Yes, every bit of it. Rotate it out, no big deal. But I'd rather be ready, prepared, and have it sitting on my shelf than not have it at all and have to fight for it in the streets. If 85% of people live in cities or in congested areas, you think those are going to be peaceful if something like some of this situations happen? Nope. Be ready, guys. Prepare, have these 5 things that we talked about today. Because when billionaires when buy now, pay later apps are getting filthy rich, when billionaires are warning you of AI, when the fact that doctors and also McDonald's workers are both losing their jobs to AI, and they said within the 6 years there could be almost no jobs left, and when our grid vulnerabilities are happening more and more and more, this is why we do these 5 things. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.